Hello everyone. Today we are going to see our second session in the lecture series on ethics, integrity and aptitude. Alright, so let's begin. First we shall see a little bit of recap what we have done. First we saw the idea of ethics, right? We defined them and we saw a simple definition from second ARC. I understand that concepts might be a bit abstract right now, but slowly as we move on in the lecture series and we see many examples, you will be able to relate and you will be able to concretize things. Okay, then we discussed in detail ethics versus morality, and but be careful. Later on, we might be able to use them interchangeably also. There are subtle differences between them, but sometimes we use them interchangeably also. Alright, next we saw how our thought process work. We saw what are beliefs, what are values, how core beliefs turn into values, and what is attitude. There is a separate unit on it, so we shall see that in detail. Then we shall see how behavior is affected by attitude, right? Then after that, when we give feedback from the behavior, how our beliefs change. Alright, so this we saw in the last lecture. Then we saw when we have some beliefs, okay, and then there is the truth, then the thing that is common that leads to knowledge. Okay, then so we read about beliefs, we read about values, what are values, right? Things that are important to us. Then we saw what are the topics in the unit 1. Then we saw essence of ethics, right? What it means, what is the basically indispensable quality of ethics, what makes ethics ethics. All right. Okay, this is something sort of a bonus for you guys. As we promised that we are going to share some handwritten or handmade diagrams. So these are the diagrams from the first lecture, ethics versus morality. Okay, then this diagram I just discussed, what is knowledge, then how individual affects the society and how society affects the individual. Then here we can see the thought process, right? Beliefs turning into values, into attitude, into behavior. All right. Okay, let's move forward. Let's just have a brief outline about today's discussion. We are going to see what are the determinants of ethics, like what determines ethics. All right, then we'll see consequences, positive, negative, of following and not following the ethics. We'll teach you that in a good structure so that you can replicate that in your answers and you can learn in an easier way when you study about consequences. You can always, please remember, you can always add your own points in the ethical answers, in the ethics answer, because ethics is basically there are no holidays in ethics. So it's not necessary that what I've taught you is the final thing. You can always change and you can always make your own additions in the notes. One benefit will be that that answer will become personal. And as I've discussed in my orientation session, the answers which are different from others get more marks. Alright, so you have to make your answer stand out a little. It doesn't have to be a lot because theory will remain the same. Okay, one or two examples in let's say theory there are like 120 marks, right? So approximately 13 or 15 there are some numbers, that number of questions come in the theory part. So even if in 50% of those questions you are able to give your own examples, that will really benefit you. It will add maybe half a mark or 1 mark additional, and that can lead to straight away increase of 10 to 15 marks. So isn't that something which you can work on, right? All right, so as this year you might have seen the marks by now. So ethics got a bumper score for everyone. So this is why I believe you need to prepare ethics and other sections also. I'm not going to say that you should just prepare ethics now, okay? Because truth be told, UPSC does this with every subject every year or some subject every year. So this year it was ethics, 2-3 years ago it was GS3. So you never know what will help you in your preparation. So the basic rule to handle the unpredictability of UPSC is to, let's say, cover all the bases, right? Cover GS 1, 2, 3, 4 effectively. Effectively means at least cover the syllabus that is given in the notification, right? After that, what you can do, you can revise them properly and relate them. Today, in today's lecture also, we will see how we can use other GS papers knowledge in GS4. So basically, to reduce the unpredictability offered by UPSC, you can use this method. Complete the syllabus, relate, and third step is always revise, then practice. All right. So now coming back, ethics has no holidays. All right. So it applies to many, let's say, papers also, like GS 1, 2, 3, 4. As I said, we are going to discuss it. Okay. All right. Let's move forward. As a certain USP of our course that we are going to discuss, USP of our course. Just a second. USP of our course is that we are going to discuss one question each in every lecture. Okay. All right. So let's see. So first we read the question. Through though parallel concepts, ethics and morality also come in conflict with each other. Discuss with an example from your life. All right. See, the tough part for you in this will be that although we have discussed the difference, but here you have to tell parallel. You might be able to tell that also, but the actual issue will come from your own life. So if you have not thought that before, like if you have not thought of certain examples from your life when you are preparing or making notes, then you will have trouble thinking about them in the exam. So please, that is why I keep telling you, relate with your life. All right, relate with your life and make note of that, so that you can, because many times UPSC asks what this quote means for you. Simple as that. Or please give an example of this incident or this value in your life where you used it. So how will you be able to think that in the exam? There is no time to think in the exam. So UPSC wants you to develop an ethical attitude, and as I've said, please develop that ethical prism. Okay, which leads to wisdom, which leads to marks. So please develop that ethical prism, and surely you will score good marks. Don't worry about that. So let's move on to the question. So obviously in our structure we will have introduction, body, and conclusion. Briefly I'll tell you that in introduction you can discuss how they are parallel concepts. In the body you can discuss why they come into the conflict, and then you can give the example, and then you can end with a simple conclusion that yes, there are no right or wrong, they both come together and come in conflict also, and in the end should we focus on ethics or not, I'll tell you that. So in the end you will tell, we'll discuss conclusion when we come to it. So briefly this is the structure. Okay. So before that, before starting the answer, I'd like to tell you that for ethics, writing is a bit different, because at the max you have to write 150 words. So in exam pressure and exam time limit, you should restrict yourself to at the max 130 words. See, people don't tell this, okay, because in test series you don't come to know this. But when you go in the real exam, if you write 150 words, or even if you aim to write 150 words for every answer, you will not be able to complete the answers, all the answers. So what you do is I'll tell you another trick at the end of this session on answer writing. See, aim for 130 is also too much, 120 to 130, so that you can write all the questions. Okay, this should be the first aim. But if you have good writing speed and you have good content, then please go ahead and aim for 140 or 145 words. But I would advise keeping it less than 150. Okay, so you have to remember this time crunch in the exam. Okay, and you have to write in structures. So these are the first two tips. Okay, chalo, let's see the answer. For the introduction part, basically, just a second. Okay, so for introduction part, let's go to the next slide. Here we have a clear canvas. So the first part, as in the introduction, what will you write? I just said that since they are parallel concepts, Okay, so first in introduction you just start with they are parallel concepts. And why? Because they are a guide. What are they? They are a guide to resolving conflicts. And hence making a sound decision. So they are a guide to resolving a conflict or a sound decision making technique, especially when we have conflict during a value between two values. So ethics comes into play when we have moral dilemmas. Okay, this is a line which you can directly write. For let's say, for example, personal morality versus professional ethics. Okay, so it helps in decision making, especially during a dilemma. That's it. Don't worry, I'm going to explain you. So this is the introduction. Now in the body, you write how. Okay, how they help. Okay, so first of all, we need to tell the examiner that why do they come into conflict. Let me just come back to the introduction again. Here, before the body, if you want to write, you can write how they help, right? Personal morality versus professional ethics. This we have taken an example in the last session about the lawyer in Ajmal Kasab case. Okay, so you can take that example here that the person might not be feeling that defending Kasab is right, but he has to follow his ethics of the job. Okay, and remember here what he did, he defended. So ethics took precedence over morals. So this would be connected with in our conclusion. Okay, so in the body what you do? In the body you tell them why they come into conflict. Here please be precise because you don't have a lot of writing space. My meaning is not lot of words. You have writing space, you have enough pages, but the words should be limited. Okay, so conflict arises because their domains are different. That means they apply to different things. Okay, some ethics applies to society, and although we live in society, but morals apply to something that you feel from inside. Okay, something that applies to your own personal life. Ethics more apply to, if you remember it, in non-personal life, basically professional life. All right, so sources are different. Like ethics comes from, think about it, from reasons, from judging pros and cons. For morality, just try to remember. If you haven't revised, please go and revise the slides or at least see the video on 1.5x. So in morality, it's more about family values, personal values, religion, tradition. All right, third thing, you can say that ethics are more institutionalized. They come from external things. Okay, I mean they're certainly imposed on you. And morality is more of a intuition, it comes from within. So these can be 2-3 points which you can write, that why they come into conflict with each other. So now we have told, right, why they come into conflict with each other, or why the conflict happens. So now we come to examples. In my own answers, or what I would advise you is write at least 2 examples. One should be a common example and one should be a personal example, right? So in the lecture we have taken banker's example. Okay, a person comes to him with a loan requirement, and the person is a relative and person is trustworthy but does not have the requisite or required documents. Then we have taken the example of legal ethics, right? Then medical ethics. So we have already taken where conflict has happened. Here you can take another example, euthanasia, right? The person wants to die with dignity. The person is in pain but doesn't want to live or prolong the pain and just wants to die with dignity. And there will be many cases. There are many cases, right? That is why it's an issue. So, but medical ethics don't allow for this, right? There are some countries don't allow, some Christian ethics don't allow. So such things are there. But these examples are, what I said, is formal in nature. These can be the example which you write, the common one. But you have to, another trick which you can use is, in these examples, you can put yourself in the place. If you cannot make your own personal examples, what you can do is, you can put yourself in this, let's say, as a lawyer. Okay, I faced this conflict during my job at so and so place. I faced this medical issue, like person came but did not have sufficient funds with them. What did I do? So such things. So what you can do is, you can place yourself in the place of the normal common examples, and then you can create something different. Okay. So coming on to personal examples, I would like to give you here, as promised, we are going to give you good examples, different examples. So let's say eating beef. In South India, people might not have problem with it, right? But once you go to the north side, and let's say for a job you are going, or you are staying for a contract, so ethics versus morality conflicts come. For morality, basically it means your own things, your own feelings. So you say that okay, it's fine, I eat it, I have no problem. But the ethics of that region might not allow it, right? Another example can be professional ethics versus moral obligation. Like let's say you worked in a startup, so they required a lot of time from your, basically the working hours were long, but initially you were fine with it, as you understand it happens in a startup. But later on, let's say in 6 months, or let's say you are married already, so what will happen, you will not be able to give quality time at your home, you will come tired, you will not be able to talk to your wife, or if you're staying with your parents, you will not be able to talk with your parents or spend quality time with your children if you have them, so such things create issues in life. So what do? In morality, you feel that no, this job is not working out because it is not letting me have a work life balance. But you understand that there are some ethical responsibilities towards the job also. So sometimes things go, beyond time. But what do? So you create a balance. Either you find a job, or you try to talk to the manager and say that you have such commitments and you are okay with such things for a short while, but not in the longer run. So these are such examples where ethics and morality come into conflict. Okay, chalo, let's come to the conclusion. In conclusion, please remember always that in ethics there is no black and white. Please remember that. There is no strict right or wrong. Because in practical life, even the thief might be doing something out of compulsion. Not every thief, please remember that. Or not every person has a valid reason for being a criminal or doing a wrong thing, or let's say breaking the rules. Okay. Sometimes things are not so black and white in life, and that is the case with most of the people. Even in your life, you might have done something wrong. Okay, like I remember one incident from my own life, that in when I was young, like quite young, let's say 8 to 10 years old. One day I hit a small piglet. It was making a lot of sound near my house, so I don't know why I just got angry and I went and threw a stone at it, and it hit the piglet like quite with a quite strong force, and then the piglet started crying a lot, and that made me feel a lot of guilt. Even I still remember that incident. So such things happen. Okay, so even though I was not an abusive person, but still I did this in anger, and we will discuss anger later on. So these things are, I'm just trying to tell you that life is not so black and white. Okay, if I was the other person observing me, like I hit the piglet. Okay, if I am the other person, I'm observing these incident, I would obviously see that this kid is stupid, right? His parents have not taught him anything, right? But the problem was something else. The background is something else. So that is why I'm trying to tell you that, even though from observation you might see that something is really black and white, please try to understand it might not be so. And this is what they are checking in ethics. That can you see beyond the obvious? Can you read between the lines? All right. So please remember in conclusion that there is no completely right or wrong. So what you can do, you can write that both are important and we need to strike a balance. And you need to mention that yes, sometime in life balance cannot be maintained. So what to do? Focus on ethics. Because, but not always, huh? In some cases you need to focus on ethics, especially in professional workplace. Because in the end we live in a society, right? And professional workspace also, in social life also. Okay, so basically this, the reason is, although you might not have the space to write it, but I'm just going to tell you that we live in a social arena, right? So sometimes you have to follow the ethics of the time and place. That's it. And this has to be very small. You have to write till here only. Okay, this thing, that ethics and morality both are important, but in the end we have to maintain a balance. And sometimes when balance cannot be maintained, and depending on the professional and social situation, we should choose ethics, but not always, because sometimes, as an example, sati, sometimes even ethics are not right. Okay, then their morality comes into play. So it depends on situation, or situation to situation, and space and time where we are, and according to that we should choose it. Like here, focus on ethics more, but if it crosses your morality too much, like some people are abusing a girl, okay, you can call the police, right? So such things you can do. Okay, all right, I hope this was helpful to you and you have written somewhat like this. Don't worry if you know, if you have not written it like this, we will develop your thinking as the course goes on. We will develop your thinking by telling you things in a different way, telling you good examples, discussing question every lecture. All right. Now the second trick which I wanted to tell you, that how to do value addition. See, sometimes you will run short of time, you will not have enough time. So what to do? You can draw flowchart and diagrams, but please remember that flowchart and diagrams should not be your actual answer. They should always be value addition. Okay, like, let me just, so here we can see that how they help, right? So you can draw a diagram like ethics and morality. This leads to moral, or basically sound decision making. Okay, so you don't need to write this, you can just write this. All right, and the benefit of drawing diagrams and flowcharts is that they fill the pages and they use less words. So, but you have to remember that you have to write relevant things and you have to create a relevant diagram. And the diagram cannot be your whole answer, it can only be a part of your answer. Okay. Another thing which you can do is you can write one of the examples. Let's say this one. Okay, if you are working, what will it lead to, like this. If you are being moral, what will it lead to, like this. You can write something like this, but please remember again, it should not be your main answer. All right, let's move forward. All right, so we come to the first part of this lecture, right? Determinants of ethics. Please remember, like we just saw the answer writing session, 40% in mains is answer writing and 60% is theory. Please remember this ratio so that you focus on both of them. See, why 60 I have given to this? Because if you don't have the proper content, you won't be able to write. So whatever you write, that comes from your mind. So in the mind, at least the content should be there, right? Okay. So let's start with determinants of ethics. First of all, determinant means basically what makes, you know, ethics like that. So basically the factors which contribute to the, let's say, building of ethics or formation of ethics. What are the factors that leads to formation of ethics? Okay. So basically we shall see what determines right and wrong. Ethics is all about determining right and wrong. So these are the three major things which overall determine the ethics or the factors which lead to formation of ethics. So a person, the place, the time. Okay, the person we can understand as basically the nature of the person, how the person is, do they have leadership qualities, are they optimistic and all that. Place we can simply understand as different countries. Okay, time we can understand as past and present and future, although we will be dealing mostly in the relation of present and past. So this is the overall structure. And PPT, I used to remember this as PPT. So people, sorry, person, place and time determine ethics. So let's first see the effect of place on ethics. So the external environment includes a lot of things. It starts with family, school, culture, overall culture, religion. Okay, so a place has a culture. Where you live, you have family, you have a school you go to, and then most probably most of the times there is a religion which you follow. So place is external environment, okay, which includes all these four things. It can include a bit more, but anything extra you can add will come under one or these headings. Okay. So what is the effect? So let's take an example to understand. Let's see open defecation or spitting. So basically before Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, all this was very common, right? Although there was not much ethical feeling against it, but after the Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, the government has taken, they have taken multiple steps, right, to keep things clean. But when Indians go out, they don't litter outside, right? You might, if you have observed this phenomena, when Indians go out in a foreign country, they are very amazed with the system over there. Okay, and they try to keep it clean also. Spitting, which is totally accepted here, which I just said that there is no moral or ethical sanction against it. So outside, let's say Singapore or Mauritius or USA, you won't find such things over there. So people change according to the place they are in. This has happened. So this is the example of place. Like open defecation, this is totally acceptable in India. Okay, spitting, this goes on even in private buildings, government buildings, urination on the street. Although I understand that for urination facility might not be there, but what about spitting? This thing actually stops when people go outside. They're very careful of it. All right. Another thing which we can understand by is, another example can be taking a nap. In India, people are actually overworked. It is expected that they will work beyond working hours, like beyond 8 or 9 hours, whatever it is. But in Japan, and if people, why am I telling this is because if people take a nap in the office somehow, it is taken as a very negative thing. But in Japan, a nap in office time is actually acceptable because they think and they believe that the person has actually worked hard and needs a break. This is another example. Another example is pornography. The biggest, one of the biggest networks have banned it, like Geo. But in many countries, it is seen as a proper job. It is actually seen as a profession. Okay. Another example, public display of affection. Public display of affection, like kissing and hugging, mostly kissing, and it also includes holding hands also. But extreme form is kissing, and in India it is frowned upon. It is like one of the people can say that it is against our culture. Some people do, you know which people, right? So in some countries like Western countries, it is totally acceptable to hold hands. They people even kiss and even go beyond that also. But point is, in Western countries, PDA is acceptable. In India or Southeast Asia countries, it is not acceptable that much, especially in India. But let me tell you some other thing also. Open defecation is not frowned upon or not seen as a negative thing in India, but in Western countries, it is totally unacceptable that a person is, relieving himself or herself on the street. Okay. Another example, let me, so we have seen 1, 2, 3, 4. Another example we can say is in many Siberian or cold countries, sometimes parents, when they cannot really contribute to the society, they are actually sent away so that they die in the cold. I know, pretty shocking. But in India, we tend to take care of our parents, right? When even when they are not actively contributing, right? So these are the ethics that are affected by the place. So we have seen the effect of the place. So place can change the ethical rules of the society. All right, let's move on to the effect of person. So effect of person on ethical framework. Can you think of anything? See, if a person is, let's say, of a positive mindset, another person is a has a negative mindset. They see every threat, or not exactly threat, but every problem is something like apocalyptic. Like, okay, अब तो मेरी बच गई ऐसा वाला. Like at every problem they become very anxious. And another person is, they also get anxious, but they control it. They have a positive mindset, like, okay, let's take it one step at a time, and we don't rush into things, or we don't take something very negatively. So in UPSC examination also, this nature will come very handy. If somehow by some issue you are not able to clear, or somehow you face some questions in exam which you have not prepared before, what will you do? If you are of a positive mindset, you will try to tackle it with calmness, right? So this is how ethics affect. So basically, a psychological state of mind of a person affects the decision making. Let's see, we can apply this in exam only, like when we were kids and all. So there in school, if you are not able to pass, will you cheat? If you are a person who has positive mental attitude that no, I will not cheat, I will work hard the next time, okay, you will not cheat. And there are people like this, I have been like this. Okay. So if there a person who is like, no, 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 I don't want to delay this anymore, or I don't want to sit again, I just want to clear this exam anyhow, so that person will take some unethical decision. Okay. Another thing is, if the person has good value education, good value education, they have good value system inside them, so what will they do? They will be taking good decisions, they will be motivating others, they might become good leaders. As today we will see, on leaders and administrator and reformers, we will see how they had good values inside them. Okay. So when we see them, we can imbibe those values, and we can write it in our answers, and we can use that in case studies also. Okay. So value education is important, because if that affects the decision making of a person. Why am I emphasizing decision making? Because ultimately in exam, UPSC is checking your decision making, is it ethical or not, right? Now another thing is, if the person is a good reader, how will this relate? Think about it. If they read a lot, if a person uh, tends to know about a lot of things, they are able to take good decisions. They might have good ethical, what you can say, attitude. Basically, if you read more about ethics, you become ethically aware, and this reduces ethical blindness. Let me give you an example. There was a person who worked under Hitler. His name was Eichmann. I might be wrong with the spellings here. So the person worked under Hitler, and when he was basically under trial, he said that I was just acting under orders. Okay, and we can accept that. I'll come to the negative part also, but for now we can accept it. Okay, fine. He was following orders. This is a positive argument. Okay, so the person was being a neutral bureaucrat. Okay, but the issue is, should he be so ethically blind? No, right? So what do? We need to create awareness. Of what kind? Ethical awareness. So ethical awareness might have stopped Eichmann from executing some tasks, and there have been such cases wherein people from the Hitler regime helped people escape. Okay. So, two terms, ethical blindness and ethical awareness. So, if the person is well read, like you just came to know about Eichmann and you just came to know about ethical blindness and ethical awareness. So, if you are well read, your decision making will improve, because if you face such a situation when you have a negative order from the above, what will you do? Will you be ethically blind? Or you will hide, that means you will hide behind neutral bureaucracy, concept of neutral bureaucracy, or you will have some ethical awareness and take some steps, right? So where does this come from? It comes from the examples of the past. Okay. Another thing we can see that if the person has high emotional intelligence, the person will have more empathy. Okay. More, let's say if the person is an administrator, the person might lead to more ethical governance. Why? Think about it. More ethical governance is when you can deal with people's problem effectively. Commitment to social service. If a person is ethically inclined, they have high emotional intelligence. In emotional intelligence, we are going to read that the person is not just able to handle their own emotions, but the emotions of other people. So in governance, a lot of times when you face the public, a lot of people will come who will be very sad, dejected, anxious, angry, okay, emotional basically. So when they come to you and they are not able to talk properly, what will you do? You will not, scold them. You will not get angry at them. कि please, no, no, not even please. ठीक से बोलो ऐसे. So using that attitude is not, emotionally enlightened person. So this is how, if you are emotionally intelligent, you will take normal governance to good governance to ethical governance. So this is how you relate with it. So I hope this is clear. What is effect of a person on ethics? How person determines ethics? Okay. Please remember, we will see this effect of value education in the leaders section, which we are just going to do at the end of the lecture. All right. Coming to effect of time. Time basically means past or present. Okay. Difference between them. Here, just take two examples, best examples, sati and slavery. They are outlawed now, outlawed. Okay, they are unethical. Why? Because with time society progressed and they saw that this was certainly not ethical. So basically these two examples showcase that ethical structure of society can change. Okay. All right. So basically more society matures. Okay. I'm just explaining you the time effect. More society matures, more democratic they become, usually. More freedom comes, more right comes. Okay. So this leads to some form of ethical society. Okay. But if the society is in a premature stage, people are sort of selfish, and more things can be included in the matured society, like justice will prevail. Like you can see it in many Scandinavian countries, Europe, USA. Okay, coming back to these examples, see, they were accepted at that time. In the past, they were accepted. Okay, but since ethics is based on reason and society saw that when Rajaram Mohan Roy showed that this is wrong. Okay, so with time, what happened? It was outlawed. Similarly, we can see section 377. It was legal and ethical at some time, but now it is gone. And transgenders have been given, for example, this is a separate example, transgender have been given third gender status. So time helps in evolution of society. This you can write evolution of society and then you can explain with examples, which I just gave. All right. Okay, let's move forward. Again, this is a bonus thing. You can write these as short notes. Okay, examples are given, the diagram is given, you can read it later. All right, so we come to another next part. In moral philosophy, how do we see ethics? What makes ethics in moral philosophy? Okay, we have three schools of thought. Basically, they talk about if ethics are universal, that is they are same for everybody. Okay, if they are relative, that is different for some people and different for some people. like they change according to, like we just saw, time, place and person. And lastly, if there is any use of studying ethics, is there anything called ethics, should we study it? Okay, all right. So first we come to ethical universalism. It is also known as moral objectivism. Noam Chomsky, he said that what is right for me is right for you, and what is wrong for me is wrong for you also. This is universal, ethical universalism. Example is Universal Declaration of Human Rights and Geneva Conventions. In this, we can say example of Mr. Abhinandan, our Air Force pilot who was caught, right? So he was returned because of Geneva Conventions. Okay, because see, universalism, the basic thing behind universalism is that societies are now getting basically joining, okay, due to globalization, due to interconnectedness, due to internet. We are getting closer and closer. So societies are connecting. All right. So there should be some things which are followed everywhere. Some things or some values which are followed everywhere. And you can even think of those things like justice, not killing someone, love toward fellow human, let's say, okay, and respecting parents, removal of malice of corruption. So these are just few things which just came to my mind as an example that things should be followed universally. So that is ethical universalism, that there are some things in ethics which should be followed universally. Okay, so basically society is advancing and world is becoming a global village. So we need to have some values that are universal across societies. All right. And one statement here I would like to mention is that failure of ethical universalism is not failure of ethical universalism, but failure of society. That means the principle of ethical universalism, if it fails in some society, it is not the fault of the principle, but the society which followed it. Because they did not follow it properly, hence it led to issue in ethical universalism. Okay, all right. Next topic is relativism. Basically, this means that things are relative. That means if something is right for you, it might not be wrong for me, but you can follow it because it is right for you. They say that there is no such thing as ethical universalism. So they say that there is no something which is like justice. There is nothing such as which exists for all societies. They do, but please remember, they do believe in ethics, but they just say that your ethics might be different from mine, and I'm not anyone that I can judge you. So in universalism, they say that yes, if you don't follow, you might not be considered ethical. But in relativism, they say that you follow whatever you want to follow. Like I have taken an example of people sending their parents to cold areas. So they think that it's fine, but if you follow those things, that if you think that loving your parents and taking care of them is something universal, as a universal ethics principle, what will you do? You will say that they are unethical. But a relativist person will say, no, fine, okay, you follow whatever you want to follow, I'm fine with it. Like that. Why that is an issue? Why? What is the basis of this? They say that human beings don't have a certain yardstick, okay? They don't have something to measure universalism. So basically, human beings have not yet found an absolute moral yardstick with which we can judge. That is, for people, basically, it means for some people things might be different, for another people things might be different. That's it. You need to remember that much. Okay. And second thing you need to remember that they do follow ethics, but they say that who am I to judge? You do whatever is ethical to you. Okay. Okay. So, but obviously, you might have, something might have clicked in your mind that this is not wrong. Okay. Sorry, this is not right. So, what is the criticism? The major criticism is that relativism leads to social conformity. That means if a person keeps following whatever they want to following, they will never change. Okay, so what will that lead to? Basically, if there is no universal ethical principle, then sati would have gone, matlab, kept going on, right? Because it is ethical in that society, right? But sati is wrong. It was removed. Why it was removed? Because people realized through the efforts of Rajaram Mohan Roy, they realized that this is against a universal principle. Even Rajaram Mohan Roy said that this is against everything that Shastras tell us. Okay, so if a reformer comes and say that no, equality is needed, and that is a principle which is given in our Shastras, so they changed it, right? That was the defense, that was the reason behind this, behind the removal of sati and behind the movement of Raja Ram Mohan Roy. So basically, the criticism is if people keep following whatever they want to follow, there will never be a change. That's it. This is the biggest issue. And if you want to relate more, you can understand by seeing that Renaissance that happened would not have happened if people just went on with the things and they were okay with the situation that was going on. So overall, it would lead to stagnation. There would be no reform. There would be no change. There would be no equality. There would be no feminism. No one would bring the change, right? Okay, so that is the issue. If something is always correct in some or the other place, then there is no universal ethics, right? And that would also lead to no, we just saw it would lead to no progress, it will lead to stagnation. All right, let's move on to next principle. Ethical nihilism. Nihilism basically means, so nihilism basically means that nothing, no thing, nothing is morally right or wrong. Okay, so see, relativist people said that there is something right or wrong. Like I said, they believe in ethics, but they believe in relative ethics. Like something might be right in your culture and right in my culture. But nihilism people say that there is no such thing as right or wrong. You do whatever you want. Okay, so this comes into picture when it, yeah, when does it come? So it comes into the picture when relativism is taken to extreme. Relativists say that whatever it is right in your ethics, it is right. What is right in my ethical culture, it is right. But here there is no culture. They say that all individuals are different. There is no use of studying ethics. Humans are irrational, they are stupid, and they change. Their nature keeps changing. So what is the need to study ethics? What is the need to give some universal principle? So they say that things are random, and making principles, ethical principles, is useless. Okay, all right, so let me just summarize quickly. Universal people say that there is same yardstick for everybody, that we will judge everybody with the same level. Okay, relativist people say that there is some yardstick, not same, some yardstick for everybody. Nihilists say there is no yardstick. There is, basically it means, let's say might is right, Jungle Raj, and here Hitler can be justified. Okay, I hope it is clear. Let's move on to the next part, which is consequences of ethics. So basically till now we saw the determinants, what made ethics, what, you know, basically leads to formation of ethics. We'll see many questions on the topic. We will have answer writing. Don't worry about that. Okay, but for now let's see consequences. That is, what happens if ethics are followed and not followed. What are the result? Okay, we'll see both. Okay, let's move on. First of all, let's start with the positive consequences. Okay, so this is the diagram which you can make in your notes or take a screenshot. We will be studying through the triangle of social, individual, or organization. There can be other things also which you can add, but the major principles are here are social, individual, and organizational. That is the positive effect of following ethical principles on society, individual, and organization. Let's start with an individual. Okay, so see, when you help a person in daily life, like crossing a road, an old person or a blind person, you help the person to cross the road. Does it make you happy? Will it make you happy? It will, right? So that is why people are charity, matlab do charity or they do philanthropy. Why? For psychological satisfaction. Okay, so when you have a psychological satisfaction, you are happy. Okay, there is some sort of spiritual happiness. Okay, so that leads to more people being positive or helping towards each other. Okay, so that leads to motivate people. Okay, you can say that you will find peace if you are helpful to others. If you just take, you will always be feeling needy. If you help others, you will be able to feel some peace, you will feel happy. Okay, so you can motivate people by saying that you will achieve some sort of nirvana. And this is what Buddha said also. Although Buddha said that there should be no desire, but here for some people, for us mere mortals, we can say that this can be our nirvana. Okay, new age nirvana. That helping people and feeling happy from it. So basically helping people becomes is a part of good actions, taking good actions, following ethics. So by following good actions, you will be much more peaceful. Okay, and best thing is, if you can relate to it, that if you do good things, if you help people, if you are honest with people, you sleep better. Self-conscious people or people who have conscience in them, basically the antar atma, if you follow that, you will be able to sleep better, and that is a fact. Okay, if you can imagine that a person who is corrupt will always be aware of CVC. I am talking about a government servant. CVC, CBI, okay, courts, right? So they will always be aware of such things knocking on their door. Okay, they will always be paranoid, they will not be able to sleep better, it will then affect your health. Okay, anyways, so you sleep better if you are not corrupt. That is why there are a lot of things like this, like 10 commandments in Bible, eightfold path in Buddhism, five rules by Jainism. So these are all for individuals. Individual is enjoined, basically the individual is asked to follow all these rules because to lead to basically psychologically good health. It leads to psychological good health, and it will lead to, person will motivate others. Okay, another thing is, if we are ethical, then we have better analysis of things. We have better plus and minus analysis, basically moral analysis, and we develop ethical reasoning. And you must understand that if you are happy, if you are basically at peace, you will think better. Okay, because you must have experienced it yourself. Then when you are angry or you're sad, you tend to take not the best decisions, right? So ethical reasoning you develop. If you are happy, if you analyze a lot, you develop ethical reasoning, and all that helping better decision making. Being a bureaucrat, 90% of the job is taking decisions, right? Okay, it might be said that it is a full-time job wherein you take decisions, fast decisions, and sometimes you don't have a lot of time to think. So what will you do? If you have all this, you have ethical reasoning. Okay, what will you do? You will have some rules for yourself that I will not do this, I will not do that, I will do it this way only. So that all leads to development of better decision making. Isn't it that our aim? That is the aim, right? To develop an ethical prism, which I have told you. Develop that and have good decision making. Okay. All right. Thoda sa I digressed a bit. Let's move forward. Let's talk the terms of society. All right. So in society, first let us see this point. See, when we see that there is a lot of technology that is coming into our life, like cyber crimes are happening, due to which cyber crimes are happening. There is a lot of cyber bullying. Artificial intelligence is coming up, right? Data science is there, privacy issues there. Lots of things have happened in the last 4 or 5 years. Technology is, basically changing exponentially, not linearly. Okay, this is a bit CSAT thing. Okay, it is changing exponentially. Okay, but we have brought some laws also there, like there is IT Act, then there is Data Privacy Act. Okay, so all these things, why they're happening? Because technology is progressing, and effective. What is the effect that is coming? society is getting affected. So if we want to safeguard the society because of the changing technologies, we need ethical principles, some form of ethical principles, which will lead to positive steps, which will lead to then safeguarding the society. Okay, so we need ethics to positively guide the, can you guess, technological progress. We don't need to guide the society, we need to guide the people who are basically working on those technologies and who are going to develop the applications. So for that we need to have proper policies. All right, now coming to the next point, integration and stability of the society. Now you have seen a lot of cases where refugees and migration has happened. Okay, integration, let's see refugee. Okay, then what happens is some violence happens. Okay, then they feel alienated and they become radicalized. So this concept I picked up from GS3, GS paper 3, internal security. So this is how you can relate your GS with other, sorry, GS4 ethics paper with other papers, right? So if we have a stable society, if we have a society where, you know, people are standing together, holding hands, okay, this will obviously, I realize that this will not happen very soon, or this might not happen everywhere, or this might not happen basically with every person. But overall, if some people are together, like let's say the majority of people are working together, so they will be able to understand the problems of other, right? So if the society is integrated, if the society has some stability, so such incidents will reduce. Okay, if let's say in Syria, if the person, the dictator was not so power hungry, right? So such a disaster would not have happened, such so many people were killed, right? So such things are basically because of disintegration, and there is no stability. People are not standing together. People at the people who are leading are not standing with the people they are supposed to be leaders of. Basically, the leader is not standing with the society, the which is living under them. So this is the thing. All right. Then if we come that to the third point, it means social capital increases. Meaning of social capital. It basically means the relations between society, like brotherhood, let's say, shared values. There is some form of cohesion in the society. Okay. So when such things happen, what will it lead to? It leads to progress of society, right? We'll come to that. But this happens from where? Where will this cohesion come from? If ethical rules are followed, if positive ethics is followed in the society, okay. Let's say, for an example, the let's say progress of society. We'll talk about that. But for this, like I talked about brotherhood. So if the society is integrated and stable, people will help each other and would be inclined to safeguard other people also. Okay, so it will lead to progress of society. Now, progress happens in, oh, I'm sorry. Okay, so the progress happens in leaps and bounds. Okay, let's say, take an example of Scandinavian countries. Okay, Scandinavian countries. If we take their example, we will see that they rank high in a lot of human development indexes, right? What is the reason? Because although they are not that prosperous like USA and all, but still they rank high. Why? Like the highest. If you go and read about it, like why they are the happiest, because there is a lot of social capital over there. Like there is a lot of brotherhood. Okay, people don't cheat with each other so much. Okay, social ethics are followed. Basically, children are taught value education. And this will be one example which we will take when we read about value education. So all this leads to happier nation. Okay, and society, happy society is happy nation. Like happy life, sorry, happy wife, happy life. वैसे happy society, happy nation. So I think certainly India can learn from these Scandinavian countries and what they do, and we can inculcate in our own society. So positive effect of society we have seen. It leads to four things: that the society is safeguarded from changing technologies. There is an integration, there is a stable society, then people help each other, social capital increases, then there is a progress for society. Okay, let's see for organization. Okay, if you give good packages like let's say you are getting 1.5 lakh offer from Tata and another offer, same job, same everything, just from a different company who is less ethical than Tata's. Where will you go? You will go to Tata. And even if the Tatas were giving you 50,000 less, you might go to Tatas until you have some financial emergency. Why? Because if a company follows ethical principles, they are positive towards their employees, they are fair towards their employees, they attract the best talent. Okay, and the people who come there, they also work very hard. They don't work like they just want to work 9 to 5 and leave. Sometimes they will give overtime, but from their own. They might not expect some payment, and they might be willing to work more. That's my point. All right, so one more thing, okay, the next thing is East Coast of USA versus Silicon Valley. Here what happened was the development actually started on USA's East Coast. Okay, their East Coast development started here. Okay, but the Silicon Valley is somewhere here on the west side. Now, why this happened? Although the basically development started on East Coast, it shifted to Silicon Valley. Okay, why? Because democracy and meritocracy was followed over there. This can be used in essay also. So the development started on the east, shifted to Silicon Valley. Now the Silicon Valley is the hub of development because they focused on meritocracy. So if the company organization focuses on meritocracy and not, let's say, just promoting the yes men, okay, people who can actually get the work done. If they are promoted, what it can lead to? It can lead to superb development. Okay, now as I've said, if the company is ethical, okay, and they follow ethical principles like Tata, Infosys, Mr. Narayan Murthy, about whom we'll study in this lecture, so it creates a positive image on the company, and if they do that, credibility and trust increases in the company. Okay, this also leads to social acceptance of the company, like in the hearts of people. Like if Tata's launch some product, you can easily trust it more than some new company. And if ISRO is doing something, you will be able to relate that, okay, fine, they are doing something which is meritorious. Okay, one of the reasons why ISRO has gained a lot of accomplishment is because of meritocracy. Okay, right. So if they take some decision, like I said, if they take out some product, Tata's will be things will be trusted more, right? And Tata's keep innovating also, like Nano. Okay, now they're electrical vehicles. Also, if the organization is following ethics, and the consequence will be their judgments can be defended in public. Like because we trust them that they have done something. Okay, what is ethics? It is rational. It is taken or derived after thinking about positive and negative things. So we will trust them that they have done this process, okay, and then they have taken some decision. Okay, like they have responded, they have not reacted to something, they have responded. Response means you have thought about it. Coming to corporate social responsibility, this also increases the value of the company in the eyes of people. It is an ethical concept at its core. Yes, it is also, I know that it is also made compulsory by law. But companies, there are many companies which did it before it was legally enforced. Okay, like maintaining gardens and orchids around their offices. They created townships for their employees and so on. Right. One of the best example is Project Boond by BPCL. It is a water conservation project, and it has already helped around 200 plus villages in conserving water and making them water positive, basically rather than water deficit. So that is the effect of CSR. So basically, ethics followed by organization also leads to betterment of society, and that would lead to betterment of nation. So this is how this all is linked. Now let's come on to the negative consequences. Here also I have divided it in 4 parts. Negative consequences of not following the consequences of not following the ethics on individual, social, organization, international. So basically negative consequences. Okay. All right. So let's start with basically I've given you these 4 things, but you can extend it also. according to your own notes. And I would actually appreciate that, because ethics, as I believe myself, it is there are no holidays. There are no holidays in ethics. So I hope you follow this yourself. Okay, let's come to the individual. See, if ethics are not followed, then what do we see? Okay, we see that we bring another human into our home. We bring another, let's say, the female into our home, and then we treat her badly. We don't treat her with respect. We make her do work like a slave, right? So what are you doing? You are bringing another human to your home, and you are inflicting violence on her. Okay, why? Because you're not ethical. As simple as that. You're not moral. You're not thinking about the effect that will have on her. Okay, you're not thinking about the repercussions. Anyways, so if ethics are not followed, then at individual level, that can lead to violence, domestic violence on the females. All right, so it can also lead to petty crimes. Okay, the person, if they have no ethics, they will indulge in crimes, and that can lead to more crimes, heinous crimes. Okay, there is also juvenile crimes. It is increasing in number because parents are nowadays not paying proper attention. Okay, we will read about role of family, but these are increasing because at individual level the child is not able to grasp the value of ethics. They are not, first of all, they are not being taught ethics. Second of all, we know that in we do have moral education, but many people are not able to attend the schools due to poverty or some other reason. So how will they learn? If parents are not doing, and if the school is not doing, then how will they learn? Major socialization of a child happens through these two only, no? Home and school. If they don't learn, okay, then what will happen? There would be less ethical children. Okay, and that is what is happening. You obviously have read about the cases, right? I don't need to remind you. Okay, if the person is not following ethics, not thinking about their action, what will happen? It will lead to hedonism. Although I understand and I know that hedonism is not an issue in itself. It's not because it basically means materialism. Okay, like buying things. But like Mahatma Gandhi said, greed over need. If greed, okay, if you are buying things because of greed over the need, then it is bad. Okay, then if you are overly materialistic, okay, you are basically, it can be seen as you are taking things from someone else. Okay, so greed over need. So people, what will happen if a person is not able to buy it? People will steal. That is what I meant by saying that you are taking things from other people. Okay, all right, and this is obviously corporate greed. They just want to sell their product no matter what. This leads to some unethical marketing. Okay, so this is how you can relate. Let's come on to the next topic, social level. If at social level we don't follow ethics, we will see there is rising intolerance. Okay, there is rising violence against women. Like we just saw, domestic violence, that was at individual level, but at society level there is an increase, right? Because patriarchal attitude. All right, there is basically women are looked as a weaker section, so they are thought of basically easy to exploit. Okay, then we are seeing that intolerance is increasing. Although there are, this is not overall, but at societal level, if we are not ethical towards each other, intolerance will lead to violence. Okay, so basically here values are like fraternity, okay, is not followed. Social capital, which we just studied about, is not followed. So these all lead to unethical practices like Gujarat riots, okay, riots of 2013. So why these are happening? Because of intolerance. All right, now we see the next thing, casteism. If at social level we are not following ethics, what happens? Why it is staying in India? Because the concept of equality is not in our blood, in our heart and minds. Even though constitution says all are equal, but in hearts it is not thought so. Things are improving, society is maturing, and in many urban areas this thing is non-existent, but still it is going on. Okay, a lot of decisions, especially even in urban marriages, you will see that caste is a factor. All right, next, coming on to the communal violence. Okay, that we understood from intolerance only. Okay, we can link it that we are being intolerant towards the other communities, right? Vandalism is a good example here because vandalism, people think that it is justified because they are asking for or they are protesting for a reason. But the point is, you cannot destroy the public property, right? You cannot destroy something which is not yours. You can protest. Even fundamental rights have, freedom of expression, but that is always subjected. Like fundamental rights are not absolute; they are subjected to public order, decency, right? So vandalism at society level is one of the basically repercussions of not following the ethics. Coming to the organization level, if you don't follow ethics, what happens? Satyam scandal. It is an example of greed, corporate greed and corruption. It leads to basically at organization, if we don't follow ethics, it leads to loss of probity. Okay, we will study it in the last unit. So Ramalinga Raju did not follow corporate ethics, right? Then we have seen NPA crisis. This is due to bank crisis in like PNB fraud, Nirav Modi case, right? Favoritism leading to banking crisis, right? We have seen the banker example, right? So in many cases, that banker might give the loan, or due to some political pressure, banks are lending loans to some people, right? So there is a lot of inefficiency if the ethics are not followed, if the code of conduct or code of ethics is not followed, or basically work ethics are not followed. Okay, coming on time, being polite to the customer, listening to the customer, if all these things are not followed, then what happens? Inefficiency, and we have seen this. Okay, basically यहाँ पे here I would like to tell two things, that there is bank board bureau, although this is a GS part, but we can relate it, that what is the steps taken by the public authorities. Then RBI also has given a fit and proper regime. They have given guidelines for that fit and proper regime. I will not discuss this here because these are all part of GS paper, but I will link it. All right. Okay. So basically, like the last point, work culture. If the work culture deteriorates, like there is no punctuality, there is no discipline. Okay, people follow, Indian time of coming to office. What is this Indian time? Come on, if you're, if you're being employed at a place, be professional, because you are not respecting your own time. Okay, fine, that is on you, but respect other people's time, no? So this is what? This is ethics. Okay, so this is how you can relate. Coming to the international level, if let's say, let's take an example of Iran and USA over here. Iran doesn't trust USA and USA doesn't trust Iran, right? Like USA, although both are justified, USA has done some unethical things like Vietnam, and they recently killed the army commander of Iran, right? So here also you can integrate GS, but killing a state actor like the Iran's general, that is crossing a line. That is crossing a line, because see, although USA has previously killed Osama, but he was a non-state actor, right? Non-state actor, but Iran's general was a state actor. So doing that is something which was very shocking. All right. So if trust deficit is gone, it will lead to, sorry, if trust is gone and deficit increases, it will lead to conflicts, and it might lead to wars also. And as we have seen, World War One, World War Two, Cuban Missile Crisis. Okay, nuclear threat. In this, we can see it like Pakistan. Let's take an example. Best example is Pakistan. We Indians can relate it with, like, just in a click. So see, here I would like to point out that it is different from actual attack, but it is already unethical because it makes every citizen fearful. Like I said, let's take an example of Pakistan. It keeps violating ceasefire, on the border. Okay, on the border it keeps violating ceasefire. Why? Because they have a nuclear deterrent. And let's take case of India. We too are a nuclear power, but we are never taken as a country, or nobody believes that India will attack first. इसलिए that is why China also keeps poking us. Okay, so but Pakistan is a different case. Here we don't really trust them to not use a nuclear deterrent. Okay, a nuclear threat. Okay, now If the ethics are not followed, many differences will turn to disputes. Like with the China, like with China, we are our border differences turning into a dispute time and again. But with Bangladesh, we solved it, right? So if ethics are followed, things are solvable. Okay, and if ethics are not followed, there might be polarization of the world based on religion, based on right or left political dispensation. Okay, so basically the worst thing that happens, that what it leads to, if any question comes, you can write it in the conclusion that it undermines democracy and it undermines global institutions. Okay, how? Because if things are forced upon you, okay, what will you do? You will not be following democracy, right? That is dictatorship. And there are many global institutions which are undermined, like UN. Okay, see, there is one thing in international ethics that we will see when we read our topic on it, that ethics are extremely important in international ethics because there is no one basically umbrella agency that will be able to enforce rules, or that will be able to enforce following of the rules and punish people who are not actually following the rules. So this is a big absence in the international relations. So that is why ethics are extremely important, and that is why you need to remember all this and remember it in the way that I've told. Remember in the diagram, I think it's quite eye catchy, so you will be able to relate with it. Okay, visually. All right, let's move on. Now I kept saying that if you can add more dimensions, so I have just shown you that you can add more dimensions. Like I have added politics. In this diagram, politics is not there, right? In this diagram, politics is not there. So I've now, as an example, I've shown you that you can add other dimensions also. Okay. So what are the consequences of not following ethics and policies? So let's start with Gandhiji's example, that he said that politics without principles is a sin. It is one of his 7 sins, right? So Vohra committee said like political corruption is the fountainhead of corruption in India. So basically every other corruption flows from political corruption, like black money in funding, hung parliament. Okay, then it leads to horse trading. Okay, then crony capitalism will relate with that. So political corruption leads to every other corruption. Vohra committee said, you can quote this. Okay, in crony capitalism, you know what happens, like the government and the corporate collude to benefit few people, right? Only the few capitalists. So basically business group help before the election, help the politicians before election, and politicians help after the election. All right, then it also leads to criminalization of politics. And this, for a fact, we know that Associate of Democratic Reforms, they have released a report that in 2014 around 34% people had criminal cases, elected people had criminal cases against them. This has increased to 43% in 2019. This is quite disturbing. All right. Also, corruption, or if ethics are not followed, what will it lead to? Less intra-party democracy. Like we just saw in this point, it ethics is not followed, it undermines democracy in international arena. Similarly, if ethics are not followed, okay, if dynasty is followed in the party, it leads to like loss of intra-party democracy. Okay, intra-party democracy. So if those people are expected to, basically take democracy forward, if they are not doing it themselves, then you can imagine what kind of democracy they'll take forward. So high command culture is going on. All right. Okay, so I hope this is clear. Okay, so let's move on to the next topic. Okay, so here we come to ethics and human interface. We will read about human values, lessons from the lives and teachings of great leaders, reformers, and administrators. So here we will see diverse examples. I will give you, see, there are some examples which you will find everywhere, but I will try to give you some different examples. Okay. Okay, first we come to leaders. The best leader that comes to mind is Nelson Mandela. He is basically first icon that comes to mind when you think about global leaders. He is the global example of forgiveness and reconciliation. Even MK Mahatma Gandhi said that forgiveness is the virtue of the strong. Okay, so taking example of Mr. Nelson Mandela, he was jailed, right, during the apartheid regime, and when he became president, he easily could have punished those whites, right? He could have gone for a full-fledged mission against the white people, but he didn't. He forgave them. Okay, and he said that forgiveness is the key to focusing forward. Like forgiveness is a basically future. Forgiveness is future. You can use this. Forgiveness is future. You can use it as a tool in essay also. Okay, then he said that, okay, this is the first part. Then he said that resentment is like drinking poison and then hoping it will kill your enemies. Why this happens? Because when you're angry, this is the actual reason. When you're angry, you create stress hormones in your body. And Discovery Channel proved it that during anger, your IQ falls. So basically, what are you doing yourself? You're harming yourself. You're creating stress in your body. Okay. So this is justified, right? So basically, freedom is future and forgiveness is future and forgiveness is freedom. Freedom from stress. Okay. Then interpersonal issues. Interpersonal issues. Okay. All right. So the most key point here is forgiveness, right? So the other person should not be able to poison your mind. That's the main thing. One thing I would like to tell you here that in 2019 an essay came, wisdom is truth. You can relate this with that essay, because what Nelson Mandela is saying is wisdom, right? Why? Wisdom is something which is gained after experience. So after experience he saw that forgiveness is freedom, forgiveness is future, and which is practically true, because if you forgive people, you don't need to forget, or you need to forget, that is up to you. But if you but forgiveness is something which you should follow. If you forgive, you remember that something cannot affect you, and you remember that the person has done something like this, so it becomes a lesson for you. If you keep hating that person, that will lead you to basically it will take you away from the lessons from the situation. So basically, after a lot of struggle and experience, he arrived at a wisdom that forgiveness is freedom. Okay. So you can relate it with wisdom is truth. So basically, truth is you get peace, and wisdom is that you need to forgive. So wisdom leads to truth. I hope you are able to see this. Okay, let's move forward. He also believed in ideas of peace, reconciliation, equality, harmony, freedom. So we can take this and apply anywhere we want. Okay, we can relate with wisdom, we can relate with this with struggle. Like struggle leads to formation of such values in you. Okay, struggle leads to formation of this wisdom in you. Right? So he believed in, he came to follow all these principles in his actions, and he did it actually. That is the truth. He also did it. He just didn't preach, he actually followed it also. Okay. So basically, there is one quote which you can remember, or you can basically, if a question comes, you can guess from where it has come. So you must not compromise on your principles, but you must not humiliate the opposition. He said, no one is more dangerous than one who is humiliated. Madiba understood, that was his nickname, that you can't make peace with your enemy if you aren't willing to work with them and treat them with dignity. So dignity word is important, and work with them. Okay. So basically, there is also a quotation that you can't shake a hand with a closed fist. Okay. So you have to bring out your hand, and then only you can handshake. So basically, he is saying treat the enemy with dignity. Okay. You can relate this quote with Mahatma Gandhi's quote, right? If someone slaps you on one cheek, you turn the other one. Okay. This is just a relation. I'm not saying it will perfectly relate, but I'm telling you this is how you can connect things in essay. Okay. All right. So he said that his joyful and infectious character sparked hope, who wanted to dream big and pursue their dreams without limitations. those who want to live in a world of tolerance, inclusion, and hope. So you can say that this you can use, like, if ethics are followed. I'm telling you how to use this. If ethics are followed in society and if ethics are followed by leaders, they motivate people. They create hope in time of despair. Okay, then that leads to people believing that there is a world where tolerance, inclusion, and hope is there. Okay, so this is how you can turn an example. Okay, also he said that together we will work so first of all, together we will work to support the courage where there is, okay, so courage where there is fear, we will foster agreement, okay, where there is conflict, and inspire hope where there is despair. So these are also useful quotes that you can use in essay, and you can create a whole essay around this basically. Okay, all right. So one of the principles, he said that never stop learning. This is proved by, at the age of 70 he got his law degree from University of London, right? So he believed that education is the most powerful weapon with which you can change the world. So basically the wisdom that has been derived from the truth of life that he faced, right? You can at least write 3 4 basically half of the essay from this only. You can write that, okay, this is a dirty trick, but you can write the name of Nelson Mandela while quoting these points, or you cannot you can also ignore it. Okay, okay, let's move on. Coming to Mr. Narayan Murthy, he said that basically we are coming from international political figure to economic and Indian figure, right? See, we will read about Mahatma Gandhi over all the lectures. I'll keep telling about his examples. I always do. Like you just saw that I related it with greed and need. Okay, so don't worry about that. We will discuss about Mahatma Gandhi in our course, but here I want to give different examples to you because we promise that we will differentiate your content from others. Okay, so he said that think big and don't hesitate to start small. The biggest issue with today's youth is that they're impatient. So they want to start big. They want everything now. They want to start a YouTube channel and want 10 million subscribers in 1 year. Okay, but that doesn't happen. All right. So you need to think big. You can have a big target, but you need to start small. Okay. What you need to do is take a small step, and that is the hardest actually. Rest is tenacity. Rest is just you need to keep going on. Starting is the hardest part. Okay, like proposing to someone. That is the hardest part. Okay, all right. So one of his great sentence, which he said in an interview, is if you have clear conscience is the softest pillow. Clear conscience is the softest pillow. I have related this previously also when I said that if you have clear conscience, you can sleep well. All right. So he said sharing is caring, because if you don't share, like one of the example is basically it creates good leadership. Okay. So if you share the profits, he once shared the profits with employees. Okay, that is one of the examples that when once there was a big profit and he shared it with his employees. All right. So creating a protocol for behavior that enhances the confidence, commitment, and enthusiasm of people. This was his approach towards his employees. That is why Infosys is at the stage right now. Okay. One of the best thing is when in doubt, disclose. So basically what he did was promoted transparency. He promoted probity. So this is how we can use lessons from lives of these people in ethics. Okay. So following corporate ethics, transparency, sharing is caring, taking small steps, dedication to service, and so on. Okay. This is what we can learn from Mr. Narayan Murthy. All right. Now coming to Mr. MS Dhoni, coming to Captain Cool, right? What values can we learn from him? See, first is perseverance and self-belief. He has faced a lot of struggles, and how did he overcome them? By believing in himself that he can do it. Okay, although there were moments of self-doubt, sure, but in the end, at the end of the day, what won? His self-belief won. He kept going on. He kept practicing, even though he was not so famous. Under 19 in under 19, he didn't even get a chance many times, which other people got. So still he became to he came on to become one of the greatest. Art of visualization, he used to visualize hitting sixes, okay, and definitely he was able to do that, right? He used to take risks, like if people remember that in 2007, I believe, he I think before the Commonwealth Series, he asked some senior players to, to be basically removed from the team because he wanted to make the team more efficient for in the respect of fielding. And the fans would know that this has actually worked. Okay, then the power of being ordinary. This is very unique and very good. Basically, he was once he was not given the captaincy in the IPL, but still he worked at the same commitment level under Steve Smith. Okay, so this is an example that he always wanted to play cricket. He wanted to play the sport and in any capacity. Okay, so he was okay. He was fine being an ordinary person because that is his character. That is his characteristic. Okay, so that this is what we can learn. Commitment to basically work. All right, so another just an extension. Like we can learn that he was hardworking. Okay, because like I just said, under 19 team, he did not start in under 19 team like many others. Like it has shown in the movie also, but he kept practicing and worked hard, right? So basically, he is quite emotionally intelligent as he has created and he has supported a lot of people, a lot of spinners, right? Because he was able to guide them, he was able to control their issues and during the matches. That is why he is known as Captain Cool, because he was able to control his own emotions, है ना? Humility, he is very humble. Okay, he has many time, let he always presents the team first whenever there is a win, and whenever there is an issue he takes it upon himself. Okay, he delegates. That is why he is able to create many careers, because he was able to let people work. Okay, take decisions. Like we can take an example of Virat Kohli, Suresh Raina. Okay, they have developed into good leaders under him, right? All right, so let's move on to reformers. Okay, Rajaram Mohan Roy, we know about him, we have seen about him in history a lot. Okay, here we'll just remember one thing about Sati and how it came. See, he saw his sister-in-law committing Sati, so from that his empathy made him understand the actual pain that they went through. Okay, then he had the courage, dedication to follow through and beyond all odds, because at that time everybody thought it was impossible. Okay, so by courage, dedication, commitment, okay, he saw that it was abolished. So here these are the values which we can learn from him. Okay, coming to Miss Sunita Krishnan. Okay, she's an social activist. Actually, she was in KBC Karamveer show. All right, she works with the sexually trafficked victims and reintegrating them in society. She rescues them, rehabilitates, and reintegrates them. Actually, she herself is a sexual trafficked victim, right? So another great example of reformer, modern reformer, I might say, and leader, empathetic leader. Okay, so we have seen a reformer from the history, reformer in the current times. Okay, so basically another example, basically her project is Prajwala. All right, so another example is Lakshmi Agrawal. On her life, movie has come, Chapak, right? So basically these women, one of the most important thing which I have learned, that and which I think you will appreciate also, that these women not only motivate females but males also. Because if we don't stop the male from committing the violence, women don't need to protect themselves, right? If the things are changed in the mental attitude of males, then only it will improve, right? If we keep telling women that protect yourself, this and that, that is only half measure. So basically these type of women, they not only become role model of women, but for men also they show what not to do. They show that patriarchal attitude is not ethical, prejudices should be shunned, violence should be avoided at all costs. It's not right. Okay, all right, coming to administrators, Mr. E. Sridharan. Okay. Here is an anecdote which I would like to share, that when he was appointed, it was expected that task would take a lot of time. Okay, more than time allotted, 4 times maybe. Okay, but he completed it almost before time. Like the first phase of metro was done in 4 5 years. And how this was done? By work culture and discipline, right? So basically he himself follows what he preaches, right? He Many people say that come on time and do this and do that, but you will observe that they don't do that themselves. But he actually did that. He actually used to come on time. Okay, he used to dedicate his time, basically no discussions, basically non professional discussions and all that, right? In an interview he said that work with honesty and others will cooperate. This is a famous quote that he said, unique to him. Okay, so he said that follow ethics, follow work ethics, be honest, confident, and others will cooperate and work with you. Okay, so for him integrity is the priority and non-negotiable. Okay, it was an important cornerstone for him. He said that what he thought, okay, and what he spoke and what he did was in sync. Basically second ARC also says that integrity is putting social service or basically public interest as the highest priority. Okay, and that we can see is from his work only. Okay, one of the things that he did for that was, for him Bhagavad Gita, okay, he gave it to all employees when they join. Okay, so for him it was an administrative gospel that focus on work and don't worry about the fruits. So basically why he did that? Because he wanted to tell them about how to face challenges and overcome them. Okay, sorry he also made DMRC people take oath whenever they joined. So you can use this as an example. There is another story that another administrative officer used to basically have Vande Matram or national song before the office every day. So that increased patriotism and service delivery, and it increased the service delivery and it increased the commitment of people in the work. So basically he was ethical in both in his personal life and his professional life. He said that he used to never take work home. He used to strictly work according to the schedule, and if needed he would work beyond the time also, but he did not take the work home. He used to go home and spend time with his family, right? And what we can learn from him, we can learn how to overcome obstacles. Here I would give an example that during a Chhatarpur corridor development, somebody filed a complaint which stopped the work of the metro for a time being. Okay, so the case was going on in the court. So what he did was, in the meantime, he thought that we should not stop the work. We should actually keep it going by making the things which are going to be used in the Chhatarpur corridor. He got it made somewhere else. Okay, so basically he prefabricated the parts. Okay, so after prefabrication and when the case ruled in his favor, in Mr. Sridharan's favor, so he just simply transferred those things and installed them. So basically it was a precast material and it was just shifted. Okay, when the judgment came, he just installed the part. So this avoided labor delays, okay, administrative delays, okay, and reduce the cost delays also. So basically this is how you think out of the box. Okay, so this is all we can learn from him. Coming to the last reform administrator of the day, he is an IS officer in the Northeast. He basically, if in two words, he is known as Miracle Man of the Northeast, because with no funds he built 100-kilometer road. Sorry, let me correct, no funds from the government. He crowdfunded and he put in his own money and he requested people to volunteer. 3 ways he did that. He crowdfunded through FB, he put in his own money and his brother's salary also, and then he requested people to volunteer their time. By doing this, he created 100-kilometer road without any government funds. So this is a brilliant example of dedication to public service and empathy. Why? because he understood people's problem. That is why he was able to contribute so much of time, like Raja Ram Mohan Roy, okay, was empathetic towards the suffering of the people who committed sati, had to commit sati. Okay, all right. So this is the things. Okay, so dedication to public service. Okay, empathy, compassion. So this is what we can learn. All right. Okay, so see, if you're giving it this year, then I believe these examples are enough, because even if you remember them and try to relate them, you can use them not just in ethics, you can also use them in essay. Okay, so if you are going for next year, please read more, try to relate things with your own life. Like, please remember the ethical prism that I've told you. Okay, so we will give you a list, don't worry about it. But these are the things, this is how we can discuss thinkers, reformers, administrators. Okay, this is how we can learn from them. And it is always good that you use personal examples. Okay, so let us just summarize the session. First we saw the question, right? Okay, first we saw the question, then we saw the determinants of ethics. What is the right, what determines right and wrong? We saw PPT version, basically person, place and time, the effect of everything. Okay, I gave you the diagram which is summary of it. Then in moral philosophy we understood how ethics, there are three schools of thought, right? So universalism, relativism, criticism of relativism, nihilism. Then we saw consequences of ethics. What happens if when you follow, when you don't follow, and we saw it in a structure. Please remember that the structure that will help you recall things. Individual, society, organization. Then we saw negative consequences of not following. Basically, negative consequences of not following the ethics. So we saw it at individual, social, organization, international, and then one more thing we saw at political level, right? When then we saw human values from leaders, reformers, and administrators. We took Nelson Mandela's example, Narayan Murthy's example, Mr. Dhoni's example, reformers in which we saw Raja Ram Mohan Roy, and this is one of the newest example, current reformer basically. Okay, then administrators E. Sridharan, Armstrong Pame. Okay, so this is the summary of the lesson. Okay, now next class topics basically are ethics in public and private life, and then we'll see role of family, society, and educational institutions in inculcating values. Okay, coming on to the practice question, please try to write this. Do you think virtue of leadership is intrinsically linked to ethically sound decision making? Now, this should be quite easy, because here I have already told you how decision making, I've used it extensively. Okay. Now discuss with example. Here you will see that I have not asked you to include your own life. Okay. So I think this might be pretty easy. So please write it, think it from ethical prism, revise it. Okay. Try to link things with your life, link with GS. Okay. And please revise and write. We will discuss the model answer in the next lecture. All right. So thank you to everyone. If there is any doubt, please post it in the comments. We'll address them. Okay. So thank you for listening. Thank you for your patience. We'll see you in the next lecture. All right. Have a good one. Bye, everybody.